The Duggar family, known for their reality television show 19 Kids and Counting, became a household name due to their unique lifestyle centered around strict religious beliefs, modest living, and large family dynamics. Among the 19 children in the family, each daughter has navigated her own path beyond the spotlight, often balancing public curiosity with personal privacy. While some of the daughters have remained in the public eye through social media or continued appearances on related shows, others have deliberately stepped back from media attention, choosing more conventional lives away from cameras. This contrast between visibility and seclusion is particularly evident when examining the experiences of the eldest daughters, including Jana Duggar, who was among the first to transition into adulthood while still under public scrutiny. Jana, born in 1988, grew up in the early years of the Duggar family's rise to fame, making her one of the most recognizable figures during the initial seasons of the show. Her life was frequently documented as she took on responsibilities such as babysitting younger siblings, assisting with homeschooling, and participating in various family events. However, unlike some of her younger sisters who later embraced social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok, Jana largely withdrew from the public sphere after marrying Michael Spradlin in 2014. This decision marked a significant shift in her relationship with the media, allowing her to focus on her marriage and eventual motherhood without constant exposure. Despite this retreat, occasional updates about her life surface through family gatherings or rare interviews, offering glimpses into how she has managed to maintain a sense of normalcy despite her upbringing in a high-profile household. As Jana Duggar entered adulthood, her journey reflected a blend of traditional expectations and personal aspirations. After marrying Michael Spradlin in 2014, she began building a life that diverged from the highly publicized world of her childhood. The couple settled down, gradually stepping away from the limelight that had characterized much of Jana's earlier years. In interviews and occasional appearances, she expressed a desire for a more private existence, emphasizing the importance of family values and faith in shaping her new role as a wife and eventually a mother. Unlike some of her siblings who continued to engage with the media through social platforms, Jana chose to limit her online presence, focusing instead on creating a stable home environment. Despite her withdrawal from public view, Jana's life continued to be shaped by the principles instilled in her during her upbringing. She maintained close ties with her family, attending major events such as weddings and holidays, where glimpses of her life were occasionally shared by her relatives. Over time, she and Michael welcomed children, further reinforcing her commitment to a quieter, more conventional lifestyle. While she rarely gave direct interviews, her actions and choices illustrated her effort to balance the expectations of her upbringing with the realities of independent adult life. Through these decisions, Jana demonstrated a deliberate shift from the structured world of her youth to a more self-directed path, navigating the complexities of marriage, parenthood, and personal identity outside the constraints of public scrutiny. Jana Duggar's transition into married life and motherhood brought both challenges and opportunities as she adapted to a more independent lifestyle away from the structured environment of her upbringing. Raised in a household governed by strict rules and expectations, she had to navigate new responsibilities without the constant oversight of her parents. Unlike her teenage years, where many aspects of daily life were dictated by family routines, Jana now had the freedom to make her own decisions regarding household management, parenting, and career choices. This shift required her to develop a greater sense of autonomy, something that may not have been fully explored while growing up in a tightly controlled household. One of the most significant adjustments came with motherhood. Having spent much of her youth caring for her younger siblings, Jana was no stranger to childcare, but raising her own children presented a different dynamic. Instead of following prescribed parenting methods, she had to determine her own approach, blending the values instilled in her with the realities of modern parenting. While some of her siblings continued to share their parenting experiences publicly, Jana preferred to keep her family life private, suggesting a conscious effort to establish boundaries between her past and present. This decision allowed her to focus on building a stable home without external pressures influencing her choices. Additionally, Jana faced the challenge of forging an identity separate from her well-known family. Having been part of a widely recognized household, she had to redefine herself beyond the expectations associated with being a Duggar daughter. Whether through personal relationships, professional endeavors, or community involvement, she worked toward establishing a life that reflected her individuality rather than solely adhering to familial traditions. These adjustments, though undoubtedly complex, underscored her determination to grow beyond the framework of her upbringing and create a meaningful, self-directed path. Jana Duggar's life beyond the limelight reflects a deep-rooted connection to the values instilled in her during her upbringing, particularly those centered around faith, family, and service. Raised in a household where religion played a central role, she continues to emphasize spiritual principles in her daily life. Although she has chosen a more private existence, her adherence to Christian teachings remains evident in the way she approaches marriage, parenthood, and personal conduct. Unlike some of her siblings who have publicly discussed their evolving perspectives on faith, Jana appears to have retained a strong foundation in the beliefs of her youth, maintaining a lifestyle that aligns with the conservative values of her family. Beyond her spiritual convictions, Jana's commitment to family is another defining aspect of her identity. Having grown up in a large household, she developed a strong sense of responsibility at an early age, which has translated into her role as a wife and mother. While she may not openly discuss the details of her parenting philosophy, her actions suggest a continuation of the nurturing and structured environment she experienced in her own childhood. At the same time, she has also sought to establish independence, making decisions that reflect her personal growth, rather than strictly adhering to the expectations set by her upbringing. This balance between tradition and self-determination illustrates her ongoing journey toward defining her own identity while honoring the lessons imparted by her family. Among the Duggar daughters, Jana stands out for her choice to step away from the public eye, a contrast to several of her younger sisters who have embraced media exposure in various ways. While Jana largely retreated from the spotlight after her marriage in 2014, choosing a more private life focused on family and faith, other Duggar women have taken different paths. For instance, Jill Duggar Dillard and Jessa Duggar Seawald have remained active in the public sphere, frequently sharing updates about their families through social media and participating in interviews. Additionally, Joy Anna Duggar Forsyth, who married in 2019, has also maintained a visible presence, engaging with fans and documenting aspects of her life online. These differences highlight the varying degrees of comfort each sister has with public attention, with Jana opting for a more secluded existence compared to her siblings. Jana's preference for privacy extends beyond just limiting media appearances. She has also avoided using social media platforms that many of her sisters actively engage with. While some Duggar daughters use Instagram or TikTok to share glimpses of their daily lives, Jana has largely refrained from doing so, reinforcing her desire to live independently of public scrutiny. This distinction underscores her intentional effort to separate herself from the expectations tied to her family's public image, whereas others have leaned into it. Even within the context of family gatherings, where news about personal milestones often surfaces, Jana's updates are infrequent and typically revealed through secondary sources rather than first-hand accounts. This divergence in lifestyle choices illustrates the diverse ways in which the Duggar daughters navigate life after growing up in a highly visible household. Jana Duggar's journey beyond the limelight has not been without its difficulties, yet she has consistently found ways to overcome obstacles and cultivate a fulfilling life on her own terms. One of the primary challenges she faced was adjusting to a life of relative obscurity after spending much of her youth in the public eye. Leaving behind the familiarity of constant media attention meant learning to navigate personal and professional decisions without the structure and support system provided by her upbringing. This transition required resilience, as she had to redefine her sense of purpose outside the expectations tied to her family's public persona. Rather than viewing this change as a loss, Jana embraced it as an opportunity to establish her own identity, free from the constraints of widespread scrutiny. Another significant hurdle was balancing the values instilled in her during childhood with the realities of independent adulthood. While her upbringing emphasized strong family bonds and religious devotion, Jana had to adapt these principles to fit her evolving circumstances. Making autonomous decisions about parenting, relationships, and personal goals meant reconciling deeply ingrained beliefs with new experiences. Despite these complexities, she approached this process with intentionality, ensuring that her choices aligned with both her heritage and her individual aspirations. By prioritizing stability, faith, and family, Jana has successfully built a life that reflects her core values while allowing room for personal growth. Through perseverance and thoughtful decision-making, she has demonstrated that fulfillment comes not from external validation, but from cultivating a meaningful and self-directed path. For many viewers, 19 Kids and Counting was more than just a reality television show. It was a window into an extraordinary lifestyle that stood in stark contrast to mainstream American culture. The Duggar family's unwavering commitment to their faith, traditional values, and large family living captivated audiences across the country. At its peak, the show drew millions of viewers each week, making the Duggars one of the most recognizable families on television. Their disciplined approach to parenting, strict household rules, and emphasis on modesty and obedience fascinated both supporters and critics alike. For some, the show offered inspiration. For others, it sparked debate about religious influence, gender roles, and child-rearing practices. Regardless of perspective, the impact of 19 Kids and Counting on popular culture was undeniable. Katie Duggar, like countless other fans, found herself drawn to the show long before she became part of the family. As a young woman growing up outside the spotlight, she watched with interest as the Duggars navigated life under the camera's gaze. The show provided a unique glimpse into a world governed by strong familial bonds, conservative principles, and a deep sense of duty to faith and family. For Katie, who shared similar values, the Duggars' way of life resonated deeply. She admired their dedication to their beliefs and the apparent harmony within their large household. While the show was often scrutinized for its portrayal of parenting and relationships, for Katie, it represented something aspirational, a model of devotion, unity, and purpose. This admiration would later take on new meaning when she found herself not just watching the Duggars, but becoming a part of their world through her relationship with Jed Duggar. What initially captivated Katie about 19 Kids and Counting was not merely the spectacle of a family with 19 children, but the deeply rooted values that shaped their daily lives. The Duggars' unwavering commitment to their Christian faith, their emphasis on purity and modesty, and their structured yet loving approach to parenting aligned closely with Katie's own upbringing. Raised in a household where faith played a central role, she recognized and appreciated the Duggars' prioritization of spiritual growth and family unity. The show's portrayal of the parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, guiding their children with firm but loving discipline, resonated with Katie, reinforcing the ideals she had been taught from a young age. To her, the Duggars were not just a fascinating anomaly in the realm of reality television, they were a reflection of the kind of life she aspired to live. Beyond the religious and moral framework that defined the Duggars' existence, Katie also admired the strength of their familial bonds. Despite the challenges of managing such a large household, the Duggars consistently emphasized teamwork, mutual support, and respect for one another. Whether they were working together to complete chores, celebrating milestones, or navigating personal struggles, the family's cohesion was evident. For Katie, who valued close-knit relationships and the importance of standing by loved ones, this aspect of the show was particularly compelling. She saw in the Duggars a blueprint for what a devoted family could look like, where responsibilities were shared, traditions were honored, and love was abundant. Additionally, the Duggars' approach to courtship and relationships intrigued Katie, especially given her own belief in waiting until marriage to engage in romantic intimacy. The show frequently highlighted the eldest Duggar siblings' adherence to purity standards, including their decision to abstain from dating and instead pursue arranged introductions with parental guidance. While this method of forming relationships was unconventional by mainstream standards, Katie found comfort in its structure and intentionality. It reinforced the idea that relationships should be built on shared values, mutual respect, and a foundation of faith, rather than fleeting emotions or societal expectations. As she continued watching the show over the years, her admiration for the Duggars only deepened, unknowingly setting the stage for a future connection that would intertwine her life with theirs in ways she never imagined. Katie's transition from being a devoted fan of 19 Kids and Counting to becoming a part of the Duggar family was as unexpected as it was transformative. Her first encounter with Jed Duggar occurred during a church event, a setting steeped in shared values and communal faith. Though she already felt a sense of familiarity with the Duggar family through the lens of the show, meeting Jed in person brought a new dimension to her perception of them. Unlike the carefully edited scenes on television, which often focused on grand family moments or lighthearted chaos, interacting with Jed allowed Katie to see him as an individual, his personality, his quirks, and his genuine warmth. What struck her most was how grounded he seemed, despite having grown up in the public eye. There was no air of celebrity or pretense. Instead, Jed carried himself with humility and sincerity, traits that immediately endeared him to Katie. As their friendship blossomed into something deeper, Katie began to notice how Jed's character reflected the values she had so admired in the Duggar family, while adding layers of his own. He was thoughtful, patient, and deeply committed to his faith, much like the image portrayed on the show. Yet, there was also a quiet determination in him that wasn't always visible on camera. Jed possessed a calm resilience, a steadfastness that came from growing up in a family where responsibility and service were second nature. Katie found herself inspired by his ability to navigate life's complexities with grace, even as he stepped out of the shadow of his famous family to forge his own path. Meeting Jed also gave Katie a more nuanced understanding of the Duggar family dynamic. Through conversations with him, she learned about the intricacies of their daily lives, the challenges of maintaining privacy in a bustling household, the effort required to uphold their values in a rapidly changing world, and the small, intimate moments that weren't captured on television. These insights helped bridge the gap between the idealized version of the Duggars she had seen on screen and the real, multifaceted individuals they were behind the scenes. As their bond grew stronger, Katie realized that her initial admiration for the Duggars had evolved into something far more personal. Jed wasn't just a member of the family she had followed on TV. He was someone who shared her values, understood her aspirations, and made her feel seen in a way she hadn't anticipated. Their relationship marked the beginning of a journey that would not only bring them together, but also redefine her connection to the Duggar family, transforming her from an outsider into an integral part of their story. Becoming part of the Duggar family introduced Katie to a world that was simultaneously familiar and entirely new. On one hand, the family's core values, faith, hard work, and loyalty, aligned seamlessly with her upbringing, creating a sense of belonging. Yet, stepping into the intricate dynamics of a household with 19 children proved to be a challenge unlike anything she had experienced before. The sheer scale of the family meant that routines were meticulously organized, communication flowed rapidly, and every member played a distinct role in maintaining the household's functionality. For Katie, adapting to this environment required a shift in perspective, as she learned to navigate the nuances of communal living and the expectations that came with it. One of the most significant adjustments for Katie was balancing her individuality with the collective identity of the Duggar family. While she deeply respected the family's traditions and sought to honor their way of life, she also recognized the importance of carving out her own space within the group. The Duggars were accustomed to functioning as a cohesive unit, often relying on well-established systems and hierarchies to manage their daily activities. Katie quickly realized that integrating into this structure meant finding ways to contribute without overshadowing the established roles of her new siblings-in-law. She approached this challenge with humility, observing and learning from those around her while gradually asserting her own strengths and passions. Another adjustment revolved around the heightened level of public scrutiny that came with being part of such a prominent family. Although Katie had been a fan of 19 Kids and Counting, she now faced the reality of living under the same spotlight that had once been reserved for the Duggars alone. Every action, every word, and every choice seemed magnified, not just within the family, but also in the eyes of the public. This added layer of attention forced Katie to develop a thicker skin and a greater awareness of how her decisions might ripple through the family and beyond. She leaned heavily on Jed and her newfound relatives for support, drawing strength from their shared experiences of navigating fame while staying true to their values. Despite these challenges, Katie found moments of joy and connection that solidified her place within the Duggar family. She bonded with her mother-in-law, Michelle, whose warmth and wisdom reminded her of her own mother's nurturing presence. The younger Duggar siblings welcomed her with curiosity and enthusiasm, eager to include her in their adventures and traditions. Over time, Katie discovered that her role extended beyond simply fitting into the family. It was about contributing to its ongoing story, bringing fresh perspectives while honoring the legacy that had been built long before her arrival. As Katie settled into her new life with the Duggars, her deep-seated values and prior admiration for the family played a crucial role in strengthening her relationship with Jed and fostering a sense of unity within the household. Having grown up with a strong foundation in faith, family, and tradition, she naturally gravitated toward the principles that had guided the Duggars for years. This alignment of beliefs created a seamless connection between her and Jed, allowing them to build their relationship on a shared understanding of what truly mattered. Their conversations often centered around their mutual commitment to living a life rooted in spiritual devotion, respect for one another, and a dedication to serving their family and community. These discussions not only deepened their emotional bond, but also reinforced the